love food colored green, bell peppers and long string beans, pickles, celery, cucumbers too. All these foods are good for you.
Welcome to Storytime Cooks, where we learn about food through books. Happy New Year! Today we're going to be reading The Folks in the Valley, and this is an alphabet book. And we're going to be making some fun alphabet shapes with an item that you probably have never written with before. This book is by Jim Aylesworth. And it's got a really pretty picture here at the front that shows people working in the fields. They're growing things, and they have cows and chickens and sheep and all kinds of interesting things going on. And we live in a place where we're able to do a lot of those things as well. The first letter of the alphabet, though, is A, and A is for alarm clock. The alarm clock rings. It's almost dawn. The folks in the valley stretch and yawn. Sometimes I'm not real excited when my alarm clock goes off. That's probably been one of the nice things for those of you who are in school. You've had a nice Christmas break, and you've not maybe had to set that alarm clock, but it is time for things to get back in our routine. B is for bacon. Bacon fries when they're out of bed. C is for cows who get milked in the milking shed. Remember, that's how we get our milk. We buy our milk at the grocery store most of the time, but there is some good cow somewhere who's given us that milk, so we'll have it to drink. D is for dough. Dough is rolled with a rolling pin, and I like using rolling pins. Those are fun to use. E is for eggs. Eggs are found under the red hen. And we do get our eggs from chickens. You see a baby chick there hatching out of the shell. F is for fences. Fences are built to hold in the hogs. We don't have fences for some of our animals. They might run away. G is for geese. And the geese are afraid of the barking dog. The dog's really noisy when it's barking. H is for hay, pitched up to the mound. I is for iron, and it's hammered to mend the plow. And this story is actually about Amish people, and they use horses and not tractors when they're farming. This plow is made out of iron, and they have to have a blacksmith to fix it so that they're able to use it in the dirt. J. Jars of pickles line the shelf. And there's a kitty cat up on that shelf who's going to make a mess if he's not careful. We like to put food in jars and preserve it for when we need it. K is for kitten. Kittens drink, and then they lick themselves. That's how they give themselves a bath. I'm glad we don't have to lick ourselves to give ourselves a bath. L is for lanes that lead down past the orchards green. And M is for meadow grasses that smell sweet and clean. That little boy is playing in the meadow. It's kind of like a field with his puppy. N is for neighbors who help with summer wheat. O is for oak, which is split for the winter's heat. Some of us heat with wood. We have to chop wood and put it in the wood stove in order to keep warm. And that's what the farmer here is doing. P is for patches, which are sewn to overall knees. Sometimes we might have to patch something when it gets a hole in it. This is one of my favorite. It's Q. That's not a letter that we see very often, but it's for quilts. And this quilt is so pretty. It's all kinds of bright colors. And when the ladies come together to stitch on the quilt, it's called a quilting bee. It's a different word that we might not have heard before either. R is for rope, which is tied to the bull. S is for sheep that are raised for the fluffy wool. And this farmer has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sheep, and I see one more. He's carrying a sheep around his neck. He has 11 sheep in his field, and they are nice and fluffy. T is for teams that plod home when the plowing is through. U, up the lane, the cows come too. And it looks like a cow parade. They're just going and going and going and going. They're all in a line. V is for valley. It's quiet when the stars shine bright. W is for windows glowing with yellow light. And you know what? The Amish people don't use electricity. And so for them to have lights in their windows, they would have to use an oil lamp or a candle or some other type of light. They don't just flip the switch like we do. That's a different way of life, isn't it? And here you see an oil lamp. X's are made when the needles click. And they're knitting. And that's sometimes how we get scarves and hats and mittens and sometimes even socks. Y are for yawns. And they're yawning over the candlestick. How they're having to read. They're reading their book by candlelight. And there's only one letter left, and that is letter Z. Z is the sound of their well-earned rest. They sleep in peace, and their lives are blessed. Our lives are blessed too. Today, we're making a fun treat. And remember, I said we were going to use something that we had not maybe used to make letters with before. We're going to use spaghetti. And January 4th is National Spaghetti Day. So I thought it would be a fun time for us to talk about spaghetti, and it's one of my favorite foods. There's a lot of things you can do with spaghetti. And this is a box, and it says whole grain spaghetti. Some of you might not have tried it before, but it has so much fiber in it compared to regular spaghetti. It's worth giving it a try, and it really is delicious. It might be a little bit darker in color when you first make it, but once you put some spaghetti sauce on there, you won't even know the difference. So today we're going to talk about a couple of different kinds of spaghetti sauce. This type of tomato is called San Marzano, and it makes really, really yummy tomato sauce. And this is the kind of tomato you can buy at the grocery store. You can buy this kind of tomato sauce already made, but it's much less expensive to make your own, and also it doesn't have the added sodium that regular tomato sauce has. So with this type of tomato sauce, you can take some onions and some garlic, and you can cook that in a little bit of oil. Don't even need to brown it. Just get it a little bit tender. And you can add other vegetables into your spaghetti sauce, and you won't even know that they're there, especially if you chop them up really, really fine and cook those as well. We're going to add our can of tomatoes, and we can put some seasoning in with that. If you have fresh herbs, that's a great way to utilize those, but if you don't, you can put some Italian seasoning or some basil, some oregano, whatever flavorings that you want to enhance your tomato sauce. And we're going to let it cook for about 10 minutes. It doesn't have to cook very long because these tomatoes are already cooked. And then we're going to take a wooden spoon and kind of smash those tomatoes up. You can blend it with an immersion blender if you want it to be really smooth, but some chunky tomato sauce sometimes is really good. So this is a fun way to make some tomato sauce at home. And if you've not tried the Marzano tomatoes, that might just be something that you would want to experiment with. But when we look at this whole grain spaghetti, it has 7 grams of fiber, and regular spaghetti really doesn't have much fiber. And so it's a good way that we can add some value to our food without really even noticing much difference. Once you've cooked this spaghetti, have some fun with it. So we've got a sheet here where we've used that spaghetti to write our ABCs to go along with our story today. But you can make all kinds of shapes with cooked spaghetti. Just give your kids a piece of wax paper You probably are going to want to put some olive oil or vegetable oil on the spaghetti and stir it around a little bit so it won't stick together. That's another benefit of this whole grain spaghetti. It doesn't stick as much as what white spaghetti does. So it's a good thing to play with, make some shapes, write some words, and then enjoy a delicious treat with some fresh homemade spaghetti that's a healthy option, low in cost, and delicious too. I hope you'll come back and join us next week for another segment of Storytime Cooks where we learn about food through books.
We love food colored green, bell peppers and long string beans, pickles, celery, cucumbers too. All these foods are good for you.